Hi, it's Loren Lockman from the Tanglewood Wellness Center in Costa Rica. And a guest here has asked me to talk a little bit about dairy products. His point was that people have long enjoyed dairy products, that many people believe they're healthy, and that many people are habituated to them. Is there really a strong reason why they can't continue to eat them? And what I would say here is that, first of all, just a simple point, the fact that people have been doing something for a long time, or that you've been doing something for a long time, in no way makes it beneficial or healthy for us. I think if we look at this from a simple, logical, natural perspective, we can get one very clear point, and that is that every mammal on the planet makes milk for its own young. That cows make milk for baby calves, right, for calves, not for human beings, not for any other species. And that in fact, every species' milk is specifically made and adapted for that young species' bodies, not for the body of any other species. There is no other species on the planet that takes the milk of a different animal. And there's no other species on the planet that uses milk after they're weaned. So again, human beings make milk for their babies, but only for the first 2 or 3 or 4 years maximum. I mean, most babies will wean themselves by the time they're 2 or 3, sometimes as late as 4 years of age. And personally, I would say, if a mother's willing to, it's probably best to allow the baby to wean itself at that point. And most babies are not relying on solely milk. I mean, I've seen 2 and 3-year-old children that still drink breast milk, but it's usually more for comfort than for any significant part of their dietary intake. At that point, they're eating solid food and getting most of what they need from their food. But the point is that by the time a human being is 2 or 3 or 4 years old, there's absolutely no need for milk of any species, for the dairy of any species, and certainly not from any species other than our own. Our own milk is specifically, perfectly adapted for our bodies, but only for those first few years. Now, most human beings stop making an enzyme called lactase by the time they are probably, again, 2, 3, 4 years old. The body stops manufacturing this enzyme. And lactase is the enzyme that allows us to digest lactose, which is milk sugar. So many people are lactose intolerant. What that really means is they no longer are able to digest milk because they don't have any lactase in their body. Now, you can take lactase, you can eat ice cream and take some lactase at the same time, but maybe you should be listening to your body. Maybe your body's trying to tell you something. Don't eat this stuff, right? It's a clear message. Interestingly, there are only a few populations in the world, I mean really only one, that usually tolerates dairy products, because most people on the planet do not tolerate dairy very well. The only people that do tend to be those people from the northwestern European countries, okay? And the highest rates of dairy consumption are in those countries. So some people say, well, isn't the body better adapted? Doesn't it adapt to dairy products? These people eat a lot of dairy products, so their bodies must be adapted to them. I think we want to differentiate between tolerating something and actually benefiting from it. Okay? If you've ever smoked cigarettes, the first one you probably hacked your brains out, right? Your body was it was an intelligent response. Let's get this toxic, carcinogenic material out of the lungs as quickly as possible. That's what coughing is about when you smoke a cigarette. But what happens if you keep smoking? Do you keep coughing forever? No, most smokers don't cough all the time. Eventually, you might start coughing again when there's significant disease. But at a certain point in time, your body stops coughing because it now tolerates the cigarette smoke. Does this mean it's good for you? Of course not, okay? At some point in time, you might begin to tolerate junk food or alcohol or drugs. Does it mean these things are good for you? Of course not. It's the same thing. So the fact that some people tolerate dairy doesn't mean they should be eating it. In fact, very quick examination of the statistics shows that the countries with the highest rates of dairy consumption, the United States, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, Sweden, Holland, and Denmark. These 6 countries are the same 6 countries that have the highest rates of osteoporosis. But wait a second. The American Dairy Council has been trying to tell us now for 50 or 60 years that drinking milk and eating dairy products is good for us, that it helps us eliminate osteoporosis. So how come all the people on the planet that eat the most dairy have the highest rates of osteoporosis? Again, here's an example of a situation where people are tolerating dairy, but it's not only not benefiting them, it's actually contributing to the disease process. And this happens, by the way, because dairy is very acid forming, and although it contains a lot of calcium, that calcium is bound up in proteins we can't digest. So the calcium in dairy is almost completely not bioavailable, and because dairy is acid forming, it actually takes calcium out of the bones. The body purposely gives up its calcium to try to achieve a proper pH balance. Every time we consume acid-forming foods, the blood's pH tends to drop, and there's only a small amount of leeway, because if the pH goes too low or goes too high, there's a condition that develops. I always forget what it's called. Oh yeah, death. Okay? We die if the pH moves very far, and so every time we eat dairy products, the pH tends to drop, and the body has to find a way to balance that, and it balances it by taking calcium from our bones, from our teeth. So dairy may contain a lot of calcium, but you can't get it. You're losing it. So it's kind of like there's a lot of gold in Fort Knox, or there used to be, probably not anymore. But even if it was still there, it wouldn't do you any good because you can't get in. You can't get to it, right? The fact there's a lot there, you and I can't get to it. We have no way to access it. And the same is true with the calcium in dairy. So dairy products are acid-forming foods. They're mucus-forming foods. They lower the pH of the body and wind up causing osteoporosis. Honestly, there's not a single good reason to be consuming dairy products. Not one. Are there some better than others? Yeah, perhaps. Perhaps. But a better way to look at this, when you ask, are some better than others? Let me ask you a question. Would you prefer that I cut off your hand, or just 3 of your fingers? I'll take 3 of them. 3 of my fingers is better than my whole hand. Yeah, but it's not that much better. It's not good, right? We're looking at 2 lousy options. So, some dairy products may be better than others. No dairy products belong in the human body. Okay? Mother's milk for a baby, after weaning, nothing at all, you'll do much better. One of the single most powerful and significant dietary changes someone can make is to give up dairy products. A lot of things resolve. Asthma, many allergies, a whole host of conditions, often arthritis, tend to resolve by simply giving up dairy products. Okay, because that's how toxic it is. So that didn't take long. I hope that's been beneficial to you. I want you to understand that if you want to create an amazing level of health and vitality, you can, but you're going to do that by understanding what actually does belong in the human body. And the milk of another species is never going to be part of that. Okay, hope that helps. See you next time.